My name is Sally Reynolds, and I'm very happy to be moderating the session this afternoon. We are a partner in the project. So let me tell you just very briefly the running order for the session. So we'll put that up on a slide to show you what you can expect with us in the session today. We are going to start with an overview of the project from Isabella Dobler from FAU Erlangen in Germany. Then we're going to make our way through the three main areas of activities of the project. The first one from Carlos is about the creation of a repository, a hub of resources that can be used, particularly by higher education institutions in their preparation and development of media-supported learning. Then Pim and Jesse are going to talk us through the course which is being developed and tell us more about where that is and the progress that they've had so far. And then finally, Evert and Hannah will talk us through the framework that has been developed for media-supported teaching and learning resources and materials. They'll talk us through that. We then want to have a breakout session to discuss with our work package leaders the two different outputs. We're going to talk about the resources repository this afternoon and also the course, and then we will have an opportunity to get back together again. So that's what our plans are for now. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Please add into the chat who you are, where you're coming from, and if you have any questions, of course, we're delighted to take them, and we'll take them as part of the discussion as well. So I'm going to hand over to Isabella, who's going to tell you more about this project and give you a little bit of background as to what we're up to in TransACTION. Isabella.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. Hello and welcome also from my side. My name is Isabella Dobler, and I'm the research associate at the Innovation and Learning Institute from the FAU in Germany. And I give you just a brief overview of the TransACTION project, of its partners, the objectives, and its activities. So yes, it works. Okay, so as you probably already know, TransACTION is a project on media-based learning in education, in higher education. And we started last year in January and are at the moment in the second half of the project. And yeah, the project combines the expertise from 5 different European partners, which are the Media and Learning Association, which is also the host of today's webinar, then the Carrie Leuven, also from Belgium, the Wageningen University from the Netherlands, from Spain, the Universidad Politécnica de Valencia, and the Innovation and Learning Institute from Germany. Maybe you've already wondered what the term TransACTION stands for. And it is, TransACTION means digital transformation in higher education through active co-creation, training, innovation, open education, and networking. So it's a quite long title. So what are the objectives behind it? The first objective is to strengthen the expertise of multimedia-based teaching and learning opportunities in higher education. And for this, the project has a strong focus on supporting digital capability solutions for teaching and learning scenarios. The second objective is to stimulate innovative learning and teaching practices enhanced by high quality and scalable learning media. So we aim at developing methods, tools, and resources for effective media-based learning strategies and resources in higher education. We also want to support academic staff and third space members, which are like technical staff, learning designers, media producers, or educational technologists. And we want to support them in designing, producing, and applying multimedia teaching formats and sources. And we also want to create possibilities to share and reuse open and high-quality media resources and online teaching practices. So our main target groups are academic teaching and support staff, third space members, as I just mentioned before, and also the European higher education researcher and practitioner community, and also policy and decision makers on the regional, national, and European level. TransACTION is developing 5 main results in different stages at the moment, and I don't want to go too detailed. I don't want to say too much in detail about them because my colleagues will show them to you. So the first result is the development of a co-creation framework, which also includes a handbook and a workbook on the co-creation or development process of media and learning resources. The second result is an open online course for multimedia design, production, and use. And here we are currently in the content creation phase. Then the third result is a hub, which is a virtual library in which high quality media resources and best practices are shared openly for learning in higher education and beyond. Then the fourth result is connected to the online course. And here 3 different training scenarios are defined, implemented and evaluated on how to use the online course. And yeah, we are currently working on result 1 and result 1, 2, 3, and 4. And by the end of next year, we're going to publish a recommendation report for policy and decision makers on strategies for promoting media and learning design in higher education. Yeah, I hope this gave you a first idea on the project activities. Now I would directly hand over to Carlos. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Isabella. Yep. We'll just stop sharing, and Carlos is going to take us through the repositories.
Yep.
Yep. Over to you, Carlos.
So, yep, here I am. Well, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let me talk about the half of media resources, which is result 3 that Isabella just mentioned. Just let me say what we were trying to do, or what we have done. We feel in the project that there's not a good place for reference in how to create and develop media for education. So, in the world, there's a lot of content about that, but there's no way to find a proper evaluated place where you can rely securely. So the idea is to create a media hub, which is a curated list of resources. So we will only have resources that the community thinks that are valuable for you. And so we believe that if you go through the resources that we have, you will save time and go to secure steps. We have focused mainly on OER, on reusable objects, but also courses. And we also have a focus on discoverability, so which also means metadata. So we have a lot of metadata, well designed, thought by design, in order to people be able to find what he's trying to find. So at the end, we don't want a huge library of content nobody knows what it is. We want a smaller library of curated content that you can rely on. How do we get the content? The content will not be on our platform, basically because we want to reuse content that is done by others, which are contributing. So the library in itself will be mainly links to external content. And of course, we want a cooperative approach. So this is inside of the TransACTION project, but we want to rely basically on the media and learning community. Well, the important part of that of this slide is that we are in November 2023. So the media hub is ready for use. We expect to grow in size, and also we want to make some tweaks, but the media hub is ready and is here. So as we decided, there's a couple of links more, but we decided to go along with the media learning community. So the easiest way to access the content is through And if you go there, let me change my slide. Okay, is this one? No, sorry. Oops. Okay, and if you go there, you can see actually the content live. You see the content that we have evaluated. As I told you, you have several filters. The digital resources library is in itself multilingual, but the content, the abstract and the metadata is in English in order to be discoverable. I will tell you a bit more about that, the kind of learning activities, the type of content, and the format of content. So if you go to any of those, you will find an abstract, which is in English. You will have an original description in its own language, the language. You will know about the license, which is very important if you want to reuse the content in any sense, and you have the link to the resource. As you can see here, the resource, it's in their own place because we don't want to create another more place for you to drop the content. In the cases that for any reason the contributors don't have a hosting, I think we can provide one, but it's not the idea by default. Basically, that's it. The library is ready. It will be growing. It will have some small tweaks, but everything is there. And the only thing that is left, and I think we'll open very shortly, is the contribute button. There will be a contribute button in which you can add your content. The content is restricted to an editorial decision because it's a curated list. So the content will not appear automatically, but will appear shortly. And at this moment, the editorial board of this is the TransACTION project members. In the long run, we expect it's the media and learning community in itself. And I think that's it. I think I will hand over to my next colleague.
Thank you. Carlos, thank you very much for talking us through the resources database, the hub, and the link is indeed there if you'd like to have a look at it, and we'll have a chance to discuss it then when we have a more open discussion afterwards. Thanks, Carlos. Okay, then I'd like to move on then, if I may, to Pim to talk us through the course and the development of the courseware.
Yes. I think I will just override the screen share of Carlos. That should happen automatically.
Yep. There you go. Perfect.
Hi there. You can see Miranda sitting next to me. She's in the same room as I am. But I also want to highlight Jesse, also from the Wageningen University of Research, partners in this project. And we are responsible of result number 2, the online course on multimedia, which to me sounded amazing when I started. I didn't join from the start. Just as Jesse and Miranda, we jumped in mainly halfway through. So our predecessor did a lot of the pre-work. And in the last year, we tried to push it a bit forward. And I want to show you what we've been doing so far. And in the second half of the session, also ask your input. Because this is not just a course that we are making with all the partners. We also want your input on how to share and disseminate this to actually make it useful for you as well. But that's already a bit on the purpose. I have 3 elements. I want to give you a little bit of context about this course, walk you through the process, and show you where we are now. Remember, we still have 2 more years to go, 1 more year to go. So it's not a final thing that we're showing. So it's really work in progress. So a lot of the design decisions, fine-tuning the content, that's still in progress. But still, I think it's worth sharing because I think there's already something to be talking about. I don't see the chat, but feel free to, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And I hope either Sally or Dovi will help me point them out, just so you know that I don't have them open.
Sure, Pim.
Yeah, I think you already see the question at the end, right? What are requirements for implementation and reuse? So that's something for you to think about. what I'm showing, how can you use this at your own institution? Context. This online course has 4 times 10 hours of materials. That was what was said in the proposal. So 4 modules, each containing about 10 hours of content that need to be filed standalone. So those different modules were already mentioned, and I will show them in a minute. An open educational resource, which means that others can use it, reuse it, and adapt to their own environment. There needs to be, we wanted some kind of micro-credential on media and learning design. All universities within this project, so from Belgium, Spain, Netherlands, and Germany, share their expertise in here. So it's not just Wageningen who's telling how to create multimedia and learning. We're all building in this. It just means that we try to steer this a bit in some kind of direction. And the previous results, so result 1, where Han and Evert will share in a minute, and result 3, the hub that Carlos shared, should also have some kind of role. So that's a bit of the starting point. And so far we've did different things. I mentioned this project was already running a year before Jesse and I joined, and that's when a needs analysis was done. Isabella in the introduction mentioned the third space professional. We had troubles really understanding them, defining them. And how I explain that right now is you have a teacher who is teaching to students, and everyone who helps the teachers make sure that that happens can be called a third space professional. So I'm an instructional designer. That means that I can benefit from this course. We have in our media team a lot of audiovisual specialists. They can be part of this target audience in this group. But also directors, program managers of learning centers. We are actually part of a teaching and learning center, which is a big thing in the Netherlands right now. That can be the target group of this audience. And in the needs analysis, we try to think, what do they need? They need a lot of different things. So when Jess and I joined, we started to build a prototype to see what happens if all this content on multimedia, on course design, on facilitating online learning, what if we tailor this to those different groups? We talked a bit about content experts, people with pedagogical expertise, technical expertise, and the multimedia perspective. Most people have a sort of shared role. So during this prototype, we actually showed them a bit of potential course. What could this look like? And we realized not all content is for everyone. So that's when we had to get back to the drawing board. And that's where also all the other universities joined in. And we said, okay, let's all take one of the modules and really start defining what type of content are we gonna work on and who is it for? Because this course is not mainly for teachers. It's also for people supporting those teachers. So your angle in describing this might be a little bit different, but more about that when I talk about the current status, because at this point we are working on a course design, really focusing on the content. Does this make sense so far? Nice. See a lot of nodding faces, so that's good. I haven't mentioned what kind of modules we have in this course. So this course now, we have a course document with about 50 pages for now. I'm not gonna show them all to you, but I want to give you some of the highlights. So we divided it in 2 parts, multimedia part of the course and a course design part of the course. In multimedia, we talk a bit about the what, how, and why of multimedia learning. And one of the interesting elements that we're working out right now is a handout on Mayer's principles. Mayer has a lot of practical principles on designing for multimedia learning. And we're working on a handout that I can show in a bit as well, among other things like cognitive load, how to avoid cognitive overload, and elements for that. In module 2, we talk a bit about what can a teacher do themselves and where do you need a professional production team and all the range in between. And that's where we have the idea to let Leuven show what they do in terms of facilities and support, but also show what Germany does, what we do in the Netherlands, just to already have 4 different perspectives on how you can facilitate this process. And that's not just for teachers, that's also for other universities who might be interested. How do they solve certain problems? Module 3, Principles and Guidelines to Online Learning Design, really to give an overview of what is possible in terms of design framework. Let me look at my notes section a little bit to see if I forget anything. Overview of learning design frameworks, learner analysis tools. So who is your learner? But also how do you deal with feedback in online courses? In module 4, it's a bit about accessibility, inclusivity, challenges for online teaching. How do you moderate a platform? What kind of platforms are out there? And what to pay attention to. So that's what we've only recently started together. This is a bit my summary of all the input that all the different universities already submitted in our outline. And that's when I want to move on to show you how we gathered this. This is that long document that I was talking about. What did I say? About 40 pages? It's actually 44. Now that I'm showing, I couldn't be lying, of course. And here you can see what is multimedia, handout PDF on certain things. I'm going to scroll up to the table of content to show you a little bit of the large scale that we're working on, right? So how does this course look like? A lot of different topics, a lot of different elements. I want to dive a little bit more into lesson 1.2, the cognitive theory of multimedia. Because that's something that we at Wageningen already spent some time in actually building this. So what kind of text do we need? What kind of scripts? So that's where I can already show you a little bit of what we're working towards to. So we're talking a bit about introduction texts, dual channel assumption, limited capacity assumption. If you already have questions about the content, that's something for later, just to see, hey, if this, I hope this sparks some kind of thing in your brain. If it doesn't, I'm happy to discuss this more in detail, of course, but maybe that's at a later stage. This is one of the scripts, further readings, questions in between. Then we move on to another topic, cognitive load theory, and so on. And this is a bit the handout I talked about with multimedia principles. This is also, we have a graphics department now working on this, but this is already a bit how we look at this. So the coherence principle, exclude what is irrelevant, what should you not do, what can you do, but also some tips. So we were really keeping in mind that audiovisual specialists who might have followed this course downloads this handout and says, okay, what can I do when I talk to a teacher without having that pedagogical knowledge, without having that pedagogical training, but what might be relevant for them to at least help that teacher, because that's the main goal, right? And we want to upskill and develop that better. So tips like edit ruthlessly, what doesn't add value should be cut. That's how we try to make that, maybe, even though it's a really practical principle, but also make it relevant for those different target audiences. My next tab is what this course is. We're going to use Teachable. Teachable is a really basic learning management system. You can put in text, videos, PDFs, a bit of images, a bit of quizzes, but it's really down to earth. And that's what we use to show, at least be able to offer something to everybody. So this is what can be followed once we do this. So assume prior knowledge, learning outcomes. If I scroll down, what I don't like about Zoom is that there now is you're sharing your screen button right in front of my button. Cognitive theory of multimedia, dual channel assumption. So that's where we copy paste that course document to the course. In doing this, of course, we don't have the videos yet, but we also realized that, for example, this one deals with exercises a bit differently. So instead of doing them in between all the pages, we made sure we did them at the end. So here comes an infographic with the different types of loads, further readings, the handout on the multimedia principles, the spatial continuity principle, taking viewers by the hand. My colleague Jesse showing what types of videos can be in here, all the way to the lesson summary and exercises. That's what I wanted to show about the course. Our plan for implementations. At the end of this project, we hope to have a full course document. So that 44-page document will be elaborated with all the script for all the videos, all the handouts, because we want to make that as an open resource. So you have a choice. Either copy-paste what's in there into your own learning management system, or use the teachable course in combination with the result that the VOU is going to develop the actual training as an addition. But in Teachable, you can just give that link to your teachers and they can follow it as well, or to your support staff. That's what I wanted to show about this document. And I hope that in the discussion, we can talk a little bit about what do you need. Do you prefer to use that Teachable, that online platform? Do you copy paste something in your LMS or need something else? But I leave it at this for now.
Thank you, Pim. That's a great overview of the course and the status of the course at the moment, which is really good news. Thank you very much. Then I think we will move on, if that's okay, to Evert and to Hannah, to give us a chance to update us on the status of the framework, which I think is pretty complete as well. And after that, I'm going to propose, because we don't have a huge number of people this afternoon, that we'll actually have an open discussion about each of the resources rather than going into breakouts, if that's okay with everybody. So we'll do it like that. We'll look at the repositories online with Carlos first and see if anyone has any comments or feedback. And we'll do the same with the course with you, Pim. But before we do that, we'll have a look at Evert and Hannah are going to talk us through the framework. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Together with Evert, I will be presenting the status of the framework, co-creation framework. At KU Leuven, we are currently creating a framework. The largest part of this is already done. And this framework consists of five steps, which I will present in a minute. But additionally to the framework itself, the 5 steps itself, we also have 2 extra products, so to say, that go along with it. And the first one is a sort of handbook, which contains very concrete scenarios for every phase, every step of the framework, which should give the user a very concrete idea of how to tackle that step. So the user of this framework in his handbook is actually anybody who's in charge of course development, multimedia development. So the target audience is quite broad. And our starting point is, the main idea is that you need to take around 2 hours for going through every step. So 2 hours per step, except for the 5th step, the development of the multimedia itself, which will take longer normally, but it depends a lot on the multimedia format that is chosen. So the idea of the handbook is really to guide the user through the steps and give them ideas how to tackle it, and also who to involve in each step, because it's a co-creation framework, and co-creation is really a central part of our framework. And for every step we give ideas, we give tips on who should be involved in this in every step. So for one step, it would be more useful to invite content experts. For other steps, it's more useful to really look for more people who are into the multimedia production field. So we give a lot of tools to go through every step as well as possible. Then next to the handbook, we are also creating a workbook, which is even more practical. It's based on intermediate products. So every step has an intermediate product that at the end of the step should be reached. And the purpose of this workbook is really to make it very easy to keep track of the progress and to sort of have a kind of report at the end of every step, which to make sure that you are able to document all decisions that have been taken, and everything that's said in a brainstorm, for example. So to make this possible, we have created a document with checklists, with fold-down menus, and structured content. So to really make it easy to keep track of everything. So those are the two extra products that go along with the framework. But then the framework itself is actually this. So we came up with 5 steps that are essential in creating multimedia. And the first step is actually, we call it contextualizing. It's really thinking, what kind of multimedia do we need? Why do we need multimedia? Where will it fit in? So if, for example, you are creating an online course, like we are also doing this project, you will need to think about where in this course do we need a multimedia product, and what will the target audience need to do with it? Why do we want to choose for multimedia? What are the benefits of multimedia in this context? Then the second step is compare and collect. And in this step, we really want to encourage users to have a look at what's already out there, to check what kind of materials have others made before, what kind of materials do colleagues have, what's available online, to see what's already out there, and to make sure you're not reinventing the wheel, so to say. And then checking what you could maybe use of that directly or indirectly, or as inspiration, or just in terms of using a similar format, all of those different things. Then the third step is resources and quality. In this step, we ask to define some quality criteria that you aim for with the multimedia product, and also thinking about the resources that you have available, both in terms of time, money, but also who can you count on? Do you have someone internally or externally that you can rely on to support you in this process? All of those things. And then the final 2 steps, design and development, then you really go into the multimedia product itself. So the first steps are really to lay the foundation, to check what you will be doing and why, and then the last 2 phases you will actually be doing it. So in the 4th step, the design step, the user learns how to write a script and think about main storylines and characters and all those kind of things. And at the end of the phase, you really have a script. And then the development phase, at the end of that phase, you have the actual multimedia product. But it's very dependable on like I said before, on the type of multimedia, on the content. It depends on a lot of factors. So in this stage, we mainly give some tips and tricks on production, like more technical aspects, and then you hopefully end up with a multimedia product that's really thought through. But this step is very dependable on actually everything that's happening before, and also the available technology and facilities. So this is the 5 steps that we have come up with, and so for every step we have very concrete materials in the handbook and the workbook. Then I will give the word to Evert.
All right. Hannah also mentioned it, but while we were testing the whole framework, we noticed that expertise is important, but time as well. And time might be one of the things that most of the people we work with are lacking the most. So we really try to aim for a system that isn't that time consuming, and make sure that you can have efficient meetings in order to come up with a good educational movie or whatever, podcast, multimedia. The idea is that you know beforehand that you will need 5 meetings. one meeting for every step. You can either do like 2 meetings for every step if you have more time, obviously, but the minimum would be 5 meetings, and then afterwards the time to actually really execute what you agreed on. Those 5 steps, you actually discuss the 5 steps of the framework. And accompanying, we have the handbook, and the handbook tells you, well, if you don't know what you can do during that meeting, here are some scenarios, like really fixed. You can just take them out and use them immediately to fill in those meetings to be able to reach the goals that are set for that meeting. The goals you have for every meeting, you find them in the workbook. So the workbook is kind of, as Hanan already said, kind of a report, but you also know if I filled in all the gaps for this step, it means I've reached all goals we had with this phase of the production process. By doing that, you should be able to keep to the schedule and within more or less 10 hours be able to like be really ready to make a good multimedia concept that fits right in the educational design. So that's how it works, or how we designed it. Obviously, you can just like read through it and pick the parts that are interesting to you, or tweak the system, or even not use a handbook, or just not use a workbook, but get inspired by the materials provided. Now, for this part, we've been working a lot on it. We've been designing the framework. We wrote a manual in the workbook, and we've been testing it internally within KU Leuven. We had some good results, and we also had some points we really had to work on. So now we're like working and redesigning the whole thing. We already presented it at the Media and Learning Conference. We got some feedback there as well. And soon we hope we are able to send it to the partners, and then the partners will test the same thing as well. So we have a fully tested operational workbook, handbook, and framework, obviously, by the end of the project.